Hello and welcome. Sorry, I'm Aziam. So, today's discussion is kind of a time travel trip with a splash of politics in it. So, I've got to just talk about an anecdote. Well, not really anecdotal. I don't know what you'd call it, to be honest with you. But when Facebook first became popular, the Marvel page, and I got to talk about the Marvel page, was full with people discussing all sorts about the comics, about issues, problems, all of that stuff. When I say issues, I meant actual issue numbers, not issues as in problems. I wasn't using a synonym there. But the thing was, you'd get these versus fights come up, like the Hulk versus the Juggernaut, and these conversations, debates, discussions would go on for weeks, even months. I'm not being hyperbolic here. They would go on for a long time. The discussion would go back and forth of who was better and why. They'd bring up issue numbers, actual reasons, power levels, everything. Even times when the two actually fought, even if it was to a standstill. Now, why I'm bringing this up is because this was back in the early days of Facebook, that these discussions actually showed a lot more passion for products or comics than they do today. These showed a lot of passion and love for that particular product or company, because not only would it be just some sort of anecdotal statement or or sorry, I've got a bit of a cold this morning, or something that was not proven. People were bringing up issue numbers, actual evidence to make their claim on whether or not who would win. So it took research in these conversations, and there was a lot to go with it. And it would go all the way back to the golden age of comics. So it wasn't just recent stuff, it was the whole spectrum of comics from the start to, at the time, would have been present day. And that period of time, comics were actually getting pretty good. We had the Civil War from Marvel. Brightest Night had just been released. Comics were getting good. They were getting good storylines. They were getting good artwork. They were getting to a point where they were really, really good. And we haven't really seen that since, unfortunately, with both DC and Marvel. Quality has waned over the last 10, 15 years. And unfortunately, it's because I think it's the way the fan bases, and this goes with wargaming as well, are discussing their products. No longer can you say something is good or bad with a fair argument. Like, you could speak about the prequels and how bad they were, and people would bring up actual points to why they were bad. Let's take the Phantom Menace for example. Jar Jar Binks, was obviously the comedian, the comedy in it. It was very drawn out. There was lots of politics. Stuff that could drag a story on rather than getting it over and done with completely. So when people brought up these problems, they were discussed fairly. Yes, you get some people who would, be absolutely nasty, and those people were often ignored and told to go away because they weren't conducive to the argument itself, the discussion itself. They weren't actually making any really valid points. They were just saying how they hated a certain subject or product. And we're seeing that now, unfortunately, but that seems to be now more the majority of the arguments rather than the minority. Usually it was the minority, and it did lead, unfortunately, to some people leaving acting and getting so depressed that they wanted to delete themselves, which is absolutely unfortunate. And I have absolutely, my heart goes out to them because they didn't deserve that. They didn't make the film, they just acted in it. That's it. But, and this is the big but, the problem is those people are now the majority of voices when making discussions about a product. They no longer make a actual objective argument whether or not something is good. Their arguments are always completely subjective. but it's bad because, female, right? Has a strong female lead, and that sucks. It's right, okay. Why does it suck? Why is the film bad? Why is the game bad? What does that particular thing make it bad? And that's the thing. And if you go the other way, you just say, I bring up these points why this product is bad, you'll get the absolute reverse of that, which is you're misogynistic, you're racist, you're sexist. All this buzzwords. It's like, well, I actually never brought up any of the things you're saying. I made objective comments, which you can see are problems with said product, but you have resorted to this sort of toxic mentality that I have this thought pattern which doesn't, actually add up with what you're saying. And I will always, when someone says this, go, please tell me where I mentioned anything about race, anything about gender, anything about sexual orientation. And they'll always say, well, that's what you implied. I went, no, that's what you inferred. See? And that's the thing. It's very, very loud. Unfortunately, it is the minority in the wargaming space. It is the minority in most hobbies. But they're also the loudest on social media. That's where the problem lies. Whereas me, and like I said, I can only talk for myself, and things I've seen, many people, but like I said, I'm talking for myself here, so you can ignore the many people bit if you wish, see them both as a problem. I've been called a fence sitter. A fence sitter for taking the side of quality over politics. That makes me a fence sitter. No, it means that I'm focused on what's important in the product. I'm focused on making an objective claim about why something is bad. I'm making an objective claim why something is good. My opinion is not just based on whether or not I enjoyed it. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I enjoy some bad films. I like the Green Lantern film. I like the Spawn film. I know these are objectively bad films, but they're fun. I enjoy them. And my subjective opinion is it's a good film. But when I go in as an objective observer, I will see that they are bad films. And that's the thing. I can put my subjective opinion aside to make a clear point. Most people, I'm finding, these very loud minority, cannot do that. They're unable to make an objective point on why something is bad. It's always something completely innocuous, something that doesn't really matter. And I get called a tourist for saying this because I would say something like, oh no, the female custodians thing is irrelevant. It is irrelevant. It doesn't make me a tourist, it's making me an observer which realises that story is a bad story. What makes it objectively bad is how it's written, how the plot goes, how the story goes, how it, destroys so much of what the setting is about. That's what makes the story bad. Whether or not the female is the lead character or not is irrelevant to it. It absolutely is. And the fact is, me saying that now technically puts me on the left. Though I've not actually said that, I wanted a female custodian. I've just said the story's bad and it's irrelevant that it's about a female. It could be about a male. The story would still be bad and always be bad. And this is a statement I cannot overstate, I should say. If you think something is bad because gender, sexual orientation, blah blah blah, try and put in the opposite and see if the story still holds up. The Star Wars sequels by Disney, you could get away with all the, politics that was attached to it, which by the way were only congenially attached to it, because a lot of the advertising was the Force is female and all that. But if you actually watch the film, if you replace Rey with a male, it's still going to suck. The film is still going to have every single issue that it has. That's the thing. And the same goes for anything else. If you look at it and you go, oh, this is woke because, there's a gay main character, but if you turn the main character straight, the story is still going to be bad. It's nothing to do with the sexual orientation of the character. It's the quality that begins with and ends with. And when people are too focused on those innocuous things and this, go into ad hominem straight away because the discussion is about something that doesn't really add anything to the story, which is an important thing. When you see things like this, you've got to see whether or not it actually adds something. If it doesn't, then why put it in? And there you go. And I think that's pretty much my point for today's video, because I've got a review coming up today. And I think this whole thing about politics and everything in gaming is kind of silly, to be honest with you. They're just the loud minority shouting, and anyone who disagrees with them automatically gets put to the other side. And people hate being labelled. We do. It's just a general thing. We don't like to be called something we're not. And when we disagree with one side because they're in the wrong, doesn't matter which side, we're automatically labelled with the other side. It's like, well, we don't agree with them either. Why are you putting us in that band? And the same with the other side. It's like, if you don't agree with us, we're putting in the other side. It's like, well, I don't agree with those either. Why are you labelling me? So most people just want to be quiet and not speak up because they're going to be labelled either way. How I've been labelled both on the same video. That's what just amused me this morning. I was looking at my comments and I literally got labelled both, far left and far right, in the same video. How can I be labelled both in the same video? It just shows the mentality of these people. But it's all about being on their side and not being, someone who just wants to enjoy a game, just wants to play a game and just wants to have fun, wants to enjoy the media as a whole. It's just, you're not on their side. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, interesting subject. What do you guys think? I like a discussion down below, and I always try to reply. If not, I give you a heart and a like, because everyone deserves a little bit of love every day in their life. And there you go. And of course, if you want to save money on your wargaming, there is Random Games down below for free delivery after £20, and up to 20% on most things, not the War Cradle stuff, because they own War Cradle, it's their product, just so you know. And there is also Forbidden Planet, if you are into Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and all the comic goodness that everyone loves. There is my merchandise, t-shirts, stickers, cups, notebooks, usual stuff. And there's my comic down below as well. I really need to put both links in there down below, but if you click on my name, you will see the other comics that have been produced, different covers. I just got bored, so I did a load of covers. And there is, of course, sorry, getting a cough, Skyforge as well, before I forget, because dude needs some love. And finally, Patreon, because business. Bye bye.